Hello everyone, my name is Chill and welcome to this video about kind of my thoughts as a 25-year-old on the FIRE movement and kind of what I take out of it. So the FIRE movement, if you don't know already, but I think you do when you click on the video, is the financial independence, retire early movement, which basically means that you really save and invest as much as you can so that you can then have financial freedom and retire early. And that could be any way. I think a lot of people have like this age of 40 or 45 in their minds, but it could also be like even 5 years earlier than normal. Like, for example, in my country, 65 is the normal age to retire for men, and women 64, but it always gets like postponed a little bit. So yeah, even if you retire at 60, that's already 5 years earlier, and you do have to have the finances in order to afford that. So I'm 25, so really a lifetime away from retiring traditionally, but I still think it's a very interesting concept, and I would kind of like to explore that more in the sense of what do I do with my finances? Do I have a specific goal where I can like head towards? And so this FIRE movement gets you to think about it and think about, is it worth spending money on that and that instead of just investing it and then being able to have freedom with what I do with every minute of my life earlier on? Because in the end, kind of the biggest gift you can have is time that you decide over, and time where you can actually enjoy your life. I'm not saying that I don't like my job, I really do, but still, I mean, having to wake up at 6:30 in the morning and then traveling 1 hour to my job and kind of going there when it's dark outside and then coming home when it's dark again, it's just frustrating. And I'm not a very risky person. I'm more so risk averse. So I don't like risk. So for example, self-employment is not my thing unless I know that I have this huge financial buffer behind me. So for example, I love painting, but I would never decide to just try to become an artist if I don't know that it doesn't have to be profitable. You know what I mean? So that's, I think, why this whole concept is so interesting to me. And as I've progressed a bit more in my research about the movement, I learned that there's like a few different ways of doing FIRE. So the traditional one is really save up until you have 12, usually, no, not 12, 15 times the amount that you need per year. Because in theory, like the average stock market grows about 7% on average per year. So if you calculate with 4% growth each year, that's quite a conservative approach. And that means that you can like take 4% of your whole portfolio each year, and it will kind of grow back to the same number. So you have money indefinitely. What isn't considered here is that there's also inflation, which means that maybe now you can calculate with needing 50,000 a year, but in 20 years, 50,000 won't have the same value. So you will kind of need more. But that's also, I'm guessing, why usually you calculate with 4%, so it's really conservative, and on average the market grows a lot more than that. I mean, a lot, like 2 to 3% more is already a lot. If you have like a portfolio of 1 million, let's say, 3% is, yeah, a lot of money, 30,000. So yeah, this is kind of the traditional FIRE, and there's two different versions of the traditional one, which is lean FIRE, which means that you really live extremely frugally, and so kind of the yearly amount that you need is very low, and that's also why you can kind of do FIRE earlier. The other one is Fat FIRE, where you just aim to enjoy in the sense of really living off with a lot of money and spending a lot of money. So for example, traveling constantly and going out to eat all the time and stuff like that, which yeah, then is called Fat FIRE, because you need a fat fire or a fat wealth to retire early. Good. Then one very interesting one for me personally is Coast FIRE, which means, let's say me as a 25-year-old, I'm like, I want to retire by 55, and I need this and this amount by then, again with the 4% rule. So let's say I want to retire by 50 and I want to have 1.5 million to then live off. And then I can kind of calculate that when I'm 35 and I have reached, let's say, 600,000, then until I'm 50, did I say 50? It has enough time to compound to 1.5 million. So that means that you kind of really invest a lot of money and save a lot of money until you reach a point where you know, until my retirement age, the wealth grows to what I need at retirement. And yeah, so that's kind of Coast FIRE, because once you reach it, you can just either like only work 2 days a week and kind of cover your expenses, but you don't have to invest anymore, or you can just, I don't know, go on a lot of vacations with the same salary, so you just don't have to invest anymore from your salary, so you just have to earn enough money to cover all of your expenses. And then there's Barista FIRE, which I also think is very interesting, because it describes kind of, it's similar to Coast FIRE in my opinion, because I see Coast FIRE more as a way to then reduce workload and not worry about having to invest, versus Barista FIRE is, versus many people seeing it as, once I'm there, I can increase my expenses. Yeah. And then Barista FIRE is exactly you planning kind of on reducing workload once you hit a specific number. So for example, you plan on having, let's say, 800,000, which, oh my god, my math, which I don't know, gives you like 35,000 a year if you again calculate with the 4%. And then you just need to work enough to cover, for example, 15,000 a year, so that you have a total of 50,000 to spend each year, with your wealth kind of being steady. So Barista is meant in the sense of you only have to work like very little or only minimal to kind of cover the rest of the expenses that are still necessary. So that would be for me kind of a way of pursuing being an artist or being self-employed, because I would know, hey, I have kind of 35,000, it's just an example, a year to live off, and for the rest of the expenses I can just go work like 2 mornings a week or whatever. So those are kind of the FIRE movements, and as you've already heard probably, for me the most interesting is, of course, generally I think it's super cool because it gets you to think about, hey, how much do I actually need each month? How much can I actually save and invest for my future and for my kind of independence? And at the same time, I'm thinking, hey, I have never thought about me being able to be very secure in my finances and at the same time pursuing self-employment. But now thinking about things just like Barista FIRE, it makes me realize that there is a possibility to just save up until you have a specific amount, and then you can really go into more risky businesses or employment types, and then just try it out and still having this buffer and not having to earn like 60,000 a year, but you can just try and earn like 10,000 and live off the rest or whatever. So I think those are really cool concepts. I will continue making videos on the whole financial budgeting whatever side. I think the next video might be on budgeting, but yeah, this was just kind of a start of why I'm even thinking about it as much, because I wouldn't have to think about it. I earn enough to live very comfortably, and I luckily have very low fixed costs. But yeah, that kind of sparked my interest in the whole thing, because I'm like, I do have enough money, why don't I do something with it that my future me will thank me. So yeah, I hope that kind of inspired you. And yeah, I wish you a lovely day. Bye bye.